Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today we're going to make this card using our newest stamp set called Garden Party with all of these pretty little flowers. I'm going to show you how to make this little flower box with no dies, no nothing, super easy, and we're going to stamp like crazy. Now I'm going to use my Distress Oxide inks for the video today, but I use my Memento inks for this one, and I wanted to show you how you can do both. So I have laid these out here for you to be able to like take a still shot of this if you want to know exactly which colors I used in this one, because today we're going to use different colors because I want to play with oxides. But these are the ones I used, and it works just as well. I'm going to do everything the same, except we're going to use different inks. And look, can you see the Wink of Stella? I really loaded it up with nice glittery Wink of Stella. So let's get started making this guy. So the first thing we need to do is make our flower box. This is super easy. We're going to use just a simple piece of cardstock and turn it into the flower box. This piece is 1 1/4 by 3. And you can adjust that to fit your card. If you're doing a landscape card and you want a longer flower box, do the same thing. And as far as height, any height you'd like. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my scoring board to help me make this first mark. And I'm going to use a pencil here. And at 1/4 inch in, I'm going to make a little pencil mark on 2 ends of one side. Here's what I mean by that. Both ends get a 1/4 inch mark, but I'm only marking on one end. I'm not worried about this end, okay? So just one end, 1/4 inch in. Then I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to go from that mark I made to the corner of the other side of the cardstock. So see what I've done? I'll lay this out so you can see it. I've just made this little angled cut for our flower box. Super easy. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. You can start from the angle and go to the dot, or from the dot and go to the angle. Doesn't matter. And that way you end up with this cool little shape. More flower boxy than square. Now you don't have to do this part if you don't want to, but I'm going to because I think it just adds something. Then I'm just going to take this over here to my scoreboard. You could actually do this before you slice it if you wanted to, but I just did it like this. And I'm just going to make a couple of little score marks in the bottom just for decoration. So just to kind of give it the design of like being a box or a little more fancy than just a flat piece of paper, I just added a couple little score marks. Super cool and super easy. Now then, we are going to do this. Will seem weird, but some of you may have this laying around. This is some packaging for one of my big stamp sets, and I don't store my stamp sets in this plastic part, the ones that I use. So I've already put it into my little book, but I'm going to use this as like an inking spot. I've seen people laminate paper and stuff, and this was laying here one day, and I picked it up, and I was like, that worked, and I didn't have to laminate anything. So I'm going to use this as my little inking spot, and you can wipe it off and reuse it over and over again. Isn't that a great way to recycle something out of the trash can? I think so too. So I'm just going to ink around the edges of this little flower pot, or window box, I should say. And then where I made those score marks, I'm going to just lightly run my inking tool over it just to kind of pick up those lines to make them show. Isn't that neat how that does that? Perfect. Now we're going to need this again, but I'm going to put it down for now. So, and here's what I mean by this. Now this will wipe off. So now I'm just going to take a paper towel and wipe that off. And it might stain it, but it didn't last time. And I really don't mind if it does. But I cleaned it off. And now I can use this again as my little inking tray. Seems to work for me. Okay, now then, let's work on the flower background. Now I've just put a little bit of some roll tape runner adhesive, see that there on the back, just to hold this in place. And I'm going to tap it a little bit with my finger because I don't want it to be super sticky, because I'm going to lift this up on the card once we finish stamping it. But for now, I want to be able to stamp it and it stay in place. So for your card base, I put it on my card mat and I put it where it would be nice and square. And I'm taking my ruler and lining it up on one of those lines just so I can be sure that I get my flower box exactly where I want it to sit on this part of the page. And then I'm just going to eyeball either side. You can measure if you need to, but I'm not going to stress about that too awful much. So there's that. Now our flower box is down. Now we get to do the fun part, the stamping. Now I'm using 2 colors, Cracked Pistachio Peeled Paint. And what I'm going to do is just go around and lay down some leaves as a base. And they won't be all the leaves I do. More than likely, I'll probably come back and do some more leaves. But I thought it'd be good to kind of get a base started of leaves. So there's one color. I'm going to pick up another leaf that I want to use and go into a different green. And I'm just going to kind of keep working, stamping on and off of our flower box because we want it to look like our flowers have grown over the edge of the flower box. So you're stamping on and off. Now, one thing I'll tell you, the thicker the cardstock you use here at the flower box, the more you need to press nice and firm so you get a good impression all the way around. The thinner this piece of paper is, the better your impression will be. So in other words, you won't have a gap between the image where it overlaps. So just play around, do your green stamping here and there. I'm trying to decide where I want this one to go. I have not picked it. Let's go like this. I'm just going to start with that to get me going. I'm going to close these up and I'm going to bring in the colors for the flowers. Now from the stamp set, I've taken 4 different flowers and put them on little 1-inch blocks, 1 and 1 1/4 inch blocks. And now my pretty colors here. We've got worn lipstick, wilted violet, what is everything else? Spice marmalade and mustard seed. Is that right? No, fossilized amber. That's what that one is. And I'm going to play with these colors. I'm going to move them a little bit so I don't get my hand in them. And I'm going to start with this rose image. And I definitely want the rose to be in this pretty, pretty worn lipstick color. I want to show you, when you're inking these up on these pads, because they don't have a flat surface like most ink pads, you need to move your image around a little bit on that ink pad to get good coverage, good surface. And then I'm going to stamp on and off of the flower pot itself. See that? Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Let me zoom you in. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of those flowers here in this color. Just kind of up and down wherever flowers would grow. Look how gorgeous those inks are, just beautiful. All right, and then in between, I'm just going to go ahead and take my little scrubber, my little cleaner scrubber. It's got a little squeaky clean on it, and I'm just rubbing this off to clean. Isn't that cool, to clean that off? Then I can put it right back on my stamp sheet. Now I'm going to go to another flower. So I've got another flower image here. I'm going to use the orange this time. Again, moving it around on that ink pad. And I'm going to come over here and just kind of put one in this place. They're so vibrant and pretty. Then I'm going to let one live kind of on and off here. And I don't mind if I'm overlapping them. If they were in a flower pot or in a nature, they would overlap each other, and that's fine. So I'm going to clean this one off again. You can leave this open on your desk. I just wanted you guys to be able to see that I'm using it. So I'm going to leave it open to the side and just clean as I go. And then it helps me to put my stuff back right away nice and clean. All right, then I'm going to take the yellow and this little kind of tiny baby sunflower. I'm going to do about 3 of these in different places. Something like this. Maybe one over here. Just on top of those leaves we've already laid down. Cleaned it. I'm going to put it away. And then I'm going to do one more flower. And it's this tiny little rose. I'm going to do it in purple. I think that'll be cute. And I can really fill in with it. Now I'm going back to my greens, and I've got a different leaf this time. And I'm going to come in and even do more filling in. And I like to use this solid image leaf when I get to this point. I found that it really helps to make things pop and fill in on top because it's more of a solid image. I really like this one. And you can just kind of, as we say, go to town and stamp this anywhere you want it. Now this may be my favorite trick for filling in. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this little stamp onto the ink pad, but only onto the edge. See how I only got ink at the top? Then I can just put a couple of leaves here and there, and I don't have to stamp the entire image. So if I don't want the whole stem, I just want some to come from behind the flower, I can just do what's called selective stamping and put those leaves exactly where I want them, just by getting a little bit of ink on half the stamp at a time. Isn't that neat how we can fill in like that? Love it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some second generation stamping with this stamp. And I'm going to ink it up into the distress ink. I'm going to stamp off onto a scrap page. And then just in the middle to fill in, I'm just stamping that there so it's not covering up my flowers, but it's putting a little bit inside of the flower basket so it doesn't look so sparse in places where I don't want it to. Now, it's okay for it to be sparse. That's not a problem at all. But I just like the way that kind of fills in. Now for my next step, I'm going to take my vintage photo distress ink that I used for the flower pot, and I'm going to do the same thing and ink around the edges of the paper. Now this is optional, but I just really thought it made them kind of tie together better and just kind of brought the whole project together. Now when you're inking, I want to give you a tip. Use this on a very big angle. You might think I'm laying it flat down, but I'm not. I'm really only working this back edge of it because I'm lifting it up on an angle, and that keeps me from getting solid circle images from the ink. If you're not careful, you'll just stamp onto your page instead of blending. So lift it up and use the heel of your tool. That's how you get that pretty blend without the circular marks. And I'm leaving my lightest area right here because that's where I'm putting my sentiment. Now for the fun part, we're going to peel this off. I'm just going to lift it up, and it'll come off easy because we made sure on that tape underneath that we kind of touched it and got some of the sticky off. So now look what we're left with. But we're going to go back and put our flower pot there. But I want to show you something. You could totally do this and leave a space and then stamp your sentiment inside the flowers like that. Wouldn't that be cute too? But I want this guy to pop up right here. So just using some foam squares. Just going to place some here onto our flower pot. Just like so. That should do it. And then we can just line it back up and put it right back in place. Now you can see the dimension that we have. Isn't that neat how it's lifted off the page like that? It's so beautiful. Now let's put our sentiment here. I'm using the sentiment from my stamp set called Floral Kaleidoscope, and this sentiment says, I don't pick favorites, and then it says, yes, I do, it's you. I think that's cute for flowers, like picking flowers. I think that's super cute, and I just used some VersaFine Onyx Black to do that, and now we're going to put it on a card base. So taking some green cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11, I'm going to score it at 5 1/2, and then I'm just going to fold this in to help me fold it like that and crease it with my bone folder really fast. Now this is a dark green card base, so I would put a white piece or something inside so I could write on it, but you can do that at whatever point you give your card, because when I do a card like this, it can be used for a lot of different things, and I don't always know what I'm going to use it for, so a lot of times I'll leave the inside blank and come back later and do my inside of my card so I can send it to the person and it be very specific. And there's our glue. Put this down. I like this green card base. I think it's really pretty and very springy. So here it is with the flowers and our sentiment and glued to our card. But I did one more thing. I took some Wink Stella, and on these flowers, I just loaded them up. But there's one thing you have to be careful of. Because this is our distress inks, they're going to smear when they get wet. So if you don't like that kind of smeary extra bit of color that moves around, you might not want to do this part. But I'm just patting down that glitter. You could do this with Stickles, you could do this with Nuvo, whatever you have. I just think it's pretty to add a little shimmer to it, something like that. And then it is ready to go. Let's bring the other one over. And there you go, guys, both of our cards made. It's so interesting. This is the one done with the Dewdrop inks. This is the one done with the Oxide inks. What a difference in the vibrancy of color. Some of these colors are really, really popping, but these right here I think pop so much more. I just love those inks. I love my mementos too. Y'all know I can't get away from those. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed Stampin' Saturday. And I'll see you guys again on Tuesday for another crafty video at noon. Until then, check out some of my other videos on my channel. Be sure to subscribe. And thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.